Hey y'all, I'm DRBibliophile, and today I want to give you guys a bookshelf tour. This is the first one I've ever done, so hopefully it'll go pretty good. I have my sister helping me out again as camera person, so we're gonna see how this goes. My bookshelves are actually lined up kind of weird. Usually when you do bookshelves, you tend to have them all going in one order. Mine aren't like that. Over there is A. All my books are alphabetized by author, so A's over there. And then at the end of that shelf, you would think it'd go here, but it goes over there. And then it ends here. It's a little strange, don't judge me, and we'll see how it's gonna go. So we're gonna set up and we'll get started. Alright, starting out, we have, hopefully this will come out, it's pretty big. We have the Empires of the Ancient Near East, published by Folio Society. We have the Hittites by O.R. Gurney, the Babylonians by H.W.F. Saggs, the Egyptians by Alan Gardner, and the Persians by J.M. Cook. It's a nice four-set that I'm never planning on opening. Okay, this one right here is called The Old Man's Home, and it's published by, or it's written rather, by the Reverend William Adams. Next, this is right here. It's English Classics with Explanatory Notes, Julius Shakespeare, by Shakespeare. This is a old Bible from the 1800s. This is Sion Newman's and Barrett's Spanish Pronouncing Dictionary by Velázquez. It's huge. I love the way it looks. That's just an old scrapbook. And this is the Globe Illustrated Shakespeare, the complete works annotated. This thing is a beast. Left on the top shelf we have a one-year Bible, KJV. Okay, now the first actual shelf. Okay, next shelf. We have Beowulf, a new translation by Burton Raphael. The Sinking of the Titanic and Great Sea Disasters, Bob Anderson. The Coral Island by R.M. Ballantyne. Peter and the Starcatchers by Dave Barry and Ridley Pearson. The American Boy's Handybook by Daniel Carter Beard. Who Fought and Bled by Ralph, looks like Beater. I don't know what his last name is, it's kind of worn off. Escape from Slavery by Francis Bach. Fahrenheit 451, Ray Bradbury. Oops. Brain Building Games with word and numbers mostly, Alan D. Braxton and a bunch of other people. Alright. Charles Berlitz's World of the Odd and Awesome. This is the Journal of Jesse Stone, the Journal of Jesse Smoke, a Cherokee Boy. Story about the Trail of Tears. Of Plymouth Plantation by William Bradford. The Incredible Journey by Sheila Burnford. The Rule of Four, Ian Caldwell, Dustin Thomason. Catalucci by Wayne Caldwell. And next up is 4 books by Orson Scott Card. I have Xenocide, Children of the Mind, Ender's Shadow, and Shadow of the Hedgemon. Okay, next is Storm Warriors by Eliza Carbone, Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, The Last of the Mohicans by James Fenimore Cooper, The Power of One by Bryce Courtney, oops. The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. I do actually have Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but one of my other family members is reading it. I also have Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator by Roald Dahl, and Dante's Inferno. That's it for the first part of the shelf. Next, Purgatorio by Dante, Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe, Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe, or, oh, sorry, The Adventures of Robinson Crusoe. The Tale of Despereaux by Kate DiCamio, I think that's how you say her name. Okay, Literary Classics, A Christmas Carol and The Night Before Christmas. Short Stories by Dickens, that's box 1. A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. Oliver Twist, Charles Dickens. And Nicholas Nickleby by Charles Dickens. We also have Outlaw by Angus Donald. Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. The Complete Sherlock Holmes, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, 2-volume set. The Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes, also Doyle. Great Cases of Sherlock Holmes, Doyle. I have a lot of Sherlock Holmes. So we have Sherlock Holmes, The Later Adventures, The complete illustrated novels of Sherlock Holmes, the best of Sherlock Holmes, the extraordinary cases of Sherlock Holmes, Hound of the Baskervilles, and The Lost World, also by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Now to the next part. The Count of Monte Cristo by Sir Alexander Dumas. Put that back later. The Count of Monte Cristo. The Count of Monte Cristo. The Count of Monte Cristo. If you can't tell by now, I have a lot of multiples of books. This is also by Dumas. The Three Musketeers. The Three Musketeers. Also by Dumas, The Man in the Iron Mask. Next, Silas Marner by George Eliot. Silas Marner by George Eliot. So Brave, Young, and Handsome by Leif Enger. Dust and Shadow, An Account of the Ripper Killings by John H. Watson by Lindsay Fay. Oops. Why Do Clocks Run Clockwise and Other Impondables by David Feldman. One of the worst books I've ever read, The Phantom of Manhattan by Frederick Forsyth. Alas, Babylon by Pat Frank. Dinotopia Lost, Alan Dean Foster. Collection of Robert Frost poems. Birches by Robert Frost. Oops. Now the Inkheart trilogy by Cornelia Funk. So we have Inkheart, Ink Spell, and Ink Death. And these are some of the most beautiful covers in all my collection. Next we have My Side of the Mountain by Jean Craighead George. Old Yeller by Fred Gibson. Lord of the Flies, William Golding. The Tale of Troy, edited or maybe retold by Roger Lansing Green. Earthquake at Dawn by Kristen Gregory. And a 1998 edition of Guinness Book of World Records. And that is it for this shelf. Now we go over here for the next one. Alright? Okay, now everything on the top of this shelf right here is not alphabetized. What's in the aquarium is whenever I buy new books and I don't have any time to shelf them all. Because when you alphabetize all your books by author, the shelves get really tight. But we're going to start right here. This is a complete history of civilization. I got all this for free at the bookstore I used to work at. Right here we have our Oriental Heritage by Will Durant, The Life of Greece, Caesar and Christ, The Age of Our Faith, The Renaissance, The Reformation, The Age of Reason Begins, The Age of Louis XIV, Age of Voltaire, Rousseau and Revelation, and The Age of Napoleon. In case it's not already obvious, I haven't read any of these. On to this one. We have A Walk in the Woods by Bill Bryson, Students of New Testament Greek, Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, The Man Who Loved Books Too Much by Alison Hoover Bartlett, Borden of Yale by Taylor, A Primer of Book Collecting, Bush Aglow, The Life of Moody by Day, International Adventures, Bruchko by Bruce Olson, Becoming a First Century Church by Dr. Charles Sexton, Torture for Christ by Richard Warmbrand, Elizabeth Gilbert's The Last American Man, 2 commentaries on Proverbs, a collection of verses, Greek Treasure, The Greek Treasure by Irving Stone, Swiss Family Robinson by J.D. Wyss, and The Hound of the Baskervilles by Arthur Conan Doyle. Now we can get to the real shelf.
Okay.
Starting here, we have The Whitechapel Horrors by Edward B. Hanna. Take that out so it's easier. Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway. And all these ones right here are by G.A. Henty. And I have Beric the Briton by Pike and Dyke. Friends Through Divide. In Freedom's Cause. The Dragon and the Raven. This is like one of the best books I've ever read. Treasure of the Incas. And Wolf the Saxon. All by G.A. Henty. Next we have The Great Wide Sea by M.H. Herlong. Same thing, I'm going to leave it out. Okay, these are by Charlie Higson, Silverfin, James Bond Adventure, and Double or Die, also James Bond Adventure. Next, we have Far North by Will Hobbes, The Odyssey by Homer, and 3 of the Alex Rider series by Anthony Horowitz, Stormbreaker, Point Blank, and Eagle Strike. Alright, we have The Killer Bear by Paul Hutchinson, Sugar Creek Gang, and The Chicago Adventure, Sugar Creek Gang. Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. The Hunchback of Notre Dame by Victor Hugo. The Legend of Sleepy Hollow and Rip Van Winkle, both by Washington Irving. I have Red Wall by Brian Jacques. I also have Madame Mayo, my brother's reading that right now. Martin the Warrior, Brian Jacques. Mossflower, a really nice leather-bound edition of Mossflower. Tagarung, whoops, a really bad edition of Tagarung. Legend of Luke. The Long Patrol, and Marl Fox, all by Brian Jacques. So we have The Turn of the Screw and Other Short Novels by Henry James. Lizards in the Terrarium by Harold Jess. Facts and Fallacies, Stories of the Strange and Unusual. Reader's Digest condensed. I don't know who the author is. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. Breakthrough Rapid Reading by Peter Kump. Rush to Judgment by Mark Lane. Read Faster, Read Better, A New Approach to Efficient Reading by Mania and Eric Deleu. The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. Call of the Wild by Jack London. White Fang by Jack London. The Giver by Lois Lowry. I also have Gathering Blue by Lois Lowry. Scotland, The Story of a Nation by Magnus Magnusson. One of the coolest names in all my things. And last on the upper part is The Care of Reptiles and Amphibians, The Care of Reptiles and Amphibians in Captivity by Christopher Madison. We have John Adams by David McCullough. 1776 by David McCullough. Into the West by James M. McPherson. The Book of Lies by Brad Meltzer. Moby Dick by Herman Melville. And this series right here is all by Larry Millay. It's kind of published fan fiction of the Sherlock Holmes. So we have Sherlock Holmes the Red Dragon, Sherlock Holmes the Ice Palace Murders, Sherlock Holmes the Runestone Mystery, Sherlock Holmes and the Secret Alliance, and The Disappearance of Sherlock Holmes. We have a collection of Milton's poems. The Genesis Flood by John C. Whitcomb and Henry M. Morris. Five Children in It by E. Nesbit. Pirates, Terrorists, and Warlords by Jeffrey and Norwich, or edited by Jeffrey and Norwich. Three of the Magic Treehouse series. Dark Days in the Deep Sea, Hour of the Olympics, and Midnight on the Moon. 1984 by George Orwell. The Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini. So we have Aragon. We have Eldest, Brissinger, and Inheritance. I don't have a dust jacket for that one. Handbook of Knots, Expanded Edition, Des Pawson. Put that back later. The River Between Us by Richard Peck. A collection of the worst case scenario guides. We have the Worst Case Scenario Almanac of History. Worst Case Scenario Survival Handbook, the original. Worst Case Survival Handbook Extreme Edition. And the Worst Case Scenario Survival Handbook Travel. Next is Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. Where the Red Fern Grows, Wilson Rawls. The Dragon of a Lonely Island by Rebecca Roop. Took me forever to find that book. Scaramouche by Raphael Sabatini. 45 Master Characters, Mythical Models for Creating Original Characters by Victoria Lynn Schmidt. Different by Design, Carrie Schmidt. Ivanhoe by Sir Walter Scott. Ivanhoe by Sir Walter Scott. The Cricket in Times Square by George Selden. No Fear Shakespeare, Julius Caesar. Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverson. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. That should actually be right there. Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. Treasure Island, Robert Louis Stevenson. Ordeal by Hunger, The Story of the Donner Party. And last one on this shelf is Irving Stone, The Agony and the Ecstasy. We have one more shelf to do.
Okay.
Real quick, I forgot to mention these. I also have almost a complete collection of the Calvin and Hobbes comics. So I have the Calvin and Hobbes 10th Anniversary book, Homicidal Psycho Jungle Cat, There's Treasure Everywhere, The Authoritative Calvin and Hobbes, Calvin and Hobbes Lazy Sunday book, Something Under the Bed is Drooling, Calvin and Hobbes, Attack the Deranged Mutant Killer Monster Snow Goons, and Scientific Progress Goes Boink. That's a great series. And this is the shelf by now you guys are most familiar with. So we start out with Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe, Black Holes and Time Warps, Einstein's Outrageous Legacy by Kip S. Thorne. And from here to here, it's all by Tolkien. So I start out with the Book of Lost Tales, Volume 1, The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I don't need to say Tolkien anymore. The Hobbit. The Hobbit. The Hobbit. The Hobbit. The Hobbit. The Hobbit. Don't wait, there's two more. Up here, The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. And last one, The Hobbit. I'm minorly obsessed. Okay, next is The Children of Huron. Then The Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, Return of the King, and Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, Return of the King. The Silmarillion. The Silmarillion. The Tolkien Reader, and Smith of Wootton Manor, and Farmer Giles of Ham. All the preceding ones were by Tolkien. Now, everything from here down, this and this entire shelf, that looks like this, is all by Mark Twain. My grandfather gave me, I think, the complete collection of his. I'm not going to bother to pull these out, just the spines. Whew. So to start, we have A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, A Tramp Abroad. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Christian Science, Chapters from My Autobiography, Extract from Captain Stormfield's Visit to Heaven, Following the Equator, How to Tell a Story, Life on the Mississippi, Merry Tales, Personal Recollections of Joan of Arc, Roughing It, Sketches, Speeches, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, The American Claimant, The Celebrated Jumping... Okay, hey guys, for whatever reason my camera decided to die, so I think it stopped right about here, so I'm going to have to pull them out now to actually show you. But this is Roughing It by Mark Twain. Sketches, New and Old. Speeches. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. The American Claimant. The Celebrated Jumping Frog of Calaveras County. The Diaries of Adam and Eve. The Gilded Age. The Innocents Abroad. The Man That Corrupted Hadleyburg. The Prince and the Pauper. The Stolen White Elephant and Other Detective Stories. The Tragedy of Pudd'nhead Wilson and the Comedy Those Extraordinary Twins. The £1 Million Banknote. The $30,000 Bequest and Other Stories. What is Man? Tom Sawyer Abroad, and 1601 and Is Shakespeare Dead? So that's it for that actual set and series. I also have right here Pudd'nhead Wilson, Prince and the Pauper, and Tom Sawyer. So next we have The Christmas Blessing by Donna Van Leer, Sherlock Holmes and the Giant Rat of Sumatra by Alan Vanman, Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne, The Aeneid by Virgil, Accelerated Distance Learning in the 21st Century, The Time Machine by H.G. Wells, The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells, Invisible Man, Wells, another copy of The Invisible Man by Wells. And next is Scrap Woodcraft. Whoops. This is Oscar Wilde, The Picture of Dorian Gray. I also have The Importance of Being Earnest in Other Plays. It's just upstairs. Spunkwater, A Life of Mark Twain. Scotland by Wormold. Hobos Wandering in America by Richard Warmaster. Swiss Family Robinson by Johann Weiss. The Midnight Palace, Carlos Ruiz Zafran, and a Dinotopia series. So I have Wind Chaser, River Quest, The Maze, Firestorm, Survive, Lost City, and Sabertooth Mountain. Excellent series. And Reptiles and Amphibians, A Guide to Familiar American Species. Alright guys, this is the last shelf. So, first up I have How to Build Treehouses, Huts, and Forts by David Stiles. The American Medical Association Family Medical Guide. Encyclopedia of Insects. These are all just kind of random, out of order. Out of the Ordinary by David Roper. A Wildlife Fact File. A Royal Ambassador of Campcraft. Talmad's Valedictory Sermons, Leslie G. Thomas. History of the Wreck of Old 97. American Public Addresses, A. Craig Bard. Parables of a Country Parson, Heartwarming Stories of Christian Faith and Life by William E. Barton. Why the Allies Won by Richard Overy. And the majority of these on the bottom shelf I hadn't read. They were given to me, though. Novella by Thomas Wolfe, The Lost Boy. Experiencing His Presence, Dozens from God, Tommy Tenney. Networking Guide, don't know why I have that. The Pirates of Colonial North Carolina. That's just crossword puzzle. The World's Last Mysteries, a Reader's Digest book. Field book, the Boy Scouts of America's Manual of Advanced Skills for Outdoor Travel, Adventure, and Caring for the Land. And last up, I have my collection of Garfield comics. So I have Garfield Book 2, He Eats His Heart Out. 14, Swallows His Pride, Goes to Waste. Fat Cat 3-pack, so hangs out, takes up space, says a mouthful. And this one is, I can't tell what the first book says, then Tons of Fun and Bigger and Better. And that is about it. Right. And that is about it, guys. I figured out that I have roughly 318 books, give or take 10, because I'm constantly lending them out to family. So that's about it. I hope you guys liked what you saw. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. And always remember, reading is the special key to take you where you want to be. Thanks, and God bless. Bye.